Hey reader guys, so this is Hey Mitch. So I'm doing my TV review on The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. Episodes 1 through 3, let's get into it. Yeah, this is the way.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Don't you agree?
Alright, so we'll just go off with the trailer first, and when it did drop, when it came out, I was not impressed. Like, yeah, it had cool graphics or whatever, but I wasn't going to be buying into this, and I was really skeptical just because on the track record where Star Wars was going, I thought they were trying to just do a cash grab, go with like a Boba Fett type of character, and just kind of like just grab the audience without really going into the lore. Luckily, thank you. So thankfully, the show is really awesome. Like, we have something that actually plays into the Star Wars fandom, right? So it is solid like Carbonite and precious like Beskar. You have this show that actually talks about a good story and Star Wars lore. So yes, it is super awesome. So for this review, I'll go into my pros and cons about these first 3 episodes, talk about top 3 things that you need to know about Mandalorian culture, and any rants that I want to talk about in this review. Keep in mind, this is going to be spoiler heavy, so at number 1, pro, it is good storytelling. Like, you actually have a good TV show that actually takes its time, build this character development, have a character, a lead role that actually struggles and takes time. It's not perfect. So you mean to tell me that actually good storytelling works? So yeah, so good on Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I mean, they were the ones who, like, when I was looking into this writing of the show after the first episode, I'm like, okay, it perfectly makes it understand why the show is great. Because, like, for Dave Filoni, he's the person behind Star Wars Rebels, so he really delivered that show, and so I'm really glad to have really good people that actually care about this franchise behind this TV show, right? 2, so good on Pedro Pascal playing the Mandalorian. So really, like, he is delivering this character through body language and voice acting, because we're not going to see his face, I don't think, till like the maybe next season, if that. But he is actually delivering his character, and it's still, you're seeing like emotion just through how he heavy breathes, how he do like a sarcastic punch towards, like, talking about the New Republic, like they're a joke, you know? So you see through his voice acting and his body language, he is actually really acting, and it's a really good job. So yeah. 3, you know, it is the lore that they're actually using in this TV show that's really great. You're actually learning about, and that's what I was really pleasantly surprised. I thought the Mandalorian was going to be some rogue person out in the western or outer rims of the Star Wars universe, right? And just have a story about that, killing off people. I was pleasantly surprised that, you know, you actually talk about Mandalorian culture, and that it's so great and refreshing, just because not only you have a good storyline, a good main character, now you're actually talking about Star Wars lore that we as fans love, right? So actually, I'll throw in another plus, is that this show is actually, like, it's very quotable, very memeable, and so that's good because it's cultural relevant, and you can bring it into, like, the normal people who don't buy into the Star Wars universe. And so obviously you have Baby Yoda, and I understand it's not really Baby Yoda, but for internet purposes, we're referring it to Baby Yoda, right? So you have Baby Yoda, you have quotes like "this is the way," and you have quotes like "I have spoken," and so it like, already they're doing a good job with the writing in such a way, like, you're already memorizing this show that's only been out for 3 weeks. So that's such a great plus about this TV show, yeah. And then for the negatives, there isn't a lot of negatives when it comes to this show, and if there is, it's the main one, which everyone is talking about, which is the short time frame, the 30 minutes of these episodes. And so really, I can't, like, it's kind of like us being spoiled or us being conditioned in a era of Netflix and HBO, like Game of Thrones. We would want to consume an hour-long TV show episode, right? And so I can understand that point, but hopefully I can speak for everyone in the sense that I would rather have quality over quantity. And if I'm getting a 30-minute episode in which has good storytelling, good character development, you're not answering questions with more questions, you're actually progressing the storyline, I think it is fair that we are in good. This is good. Don't change anything, keep doing what you're doing. If this is what we're gonna have, again, we want good quality. So at the very least, having 30 minutes episodes, while annoying, is still forgiving, and obviously we are still gonna consume this with it being a good show. So again, there isn't anything negative about the show unless you're an SJW, and if you haven't read about the SJWs complaining about the show, I can just hear it in their head. Like Data Racer 177 put out a bunch of tweets about all these SJWs complaining about the show. Other YouTubers have already talked about it, but it's so hilarious. They're like, I can hear it in my head. They're like complaining like, oh my god, you guys, like, it is 19 minutes and 45 seconds before a woman gets to speak. This is like the future, and women are like still being oppressed. Like, no, they're not. And who the hell watches a TV show with a checklist in mind? Like, okay, unless you're like a content creator, like maybe sure, but even then, like when I watch The Mandalorian, first and foremost, I consume, I digest, I am engaged, I am immersed. And then I'll watch the episode again and look and talk about the talking points, right? Think about the talking points I want to make about the show. But like for these SJWs, they just want to complain about the show. And then yes, I'm ranting, but it's just hilarious because obviously you're never going to satisfy them, right? And then two, they're not about the Star Wars universe in its lore. They just want their talking points and their agendas, and it is the narratives that they want to have, but not actually come up with a good story. And that's the first and foremost. Like when it comes to like Charm, the new reboot, they have this agenda being in the forefront versus actually having a good storyline, versus the Mandalorian that actually puts the story first, and then anything else in the behind the scenes if it is even necessary. But like even then you have like they talk about like no females in the show. The one female that they do show in the first episode is a blacksmith. She is like the caretaker of the armor, which is, I'll go into their Beskar armor, the Mandalorian steel, which is integral to their culture. But like you have a blacksmith, right, who is essentially you can tell that she has at least some ability, some power, or some credibility, because when she says this is the way, everybody repeats this is the way. So she's a caretaker of the culture. And so like if you're gonna have a female character, she's probably someone who's badass, actually taking care of the actual Mandalorian culture. So I don't know why they're complaining. Obviously they're gonna complain and continue to complain, and so that's my rant about that. So yeah, you can, if you want other people who have talked about this, so Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy, Zed Education has also talked about it. So you can find it, the SJWs who are complaining. So, but to the real Star Wars fans, we love the show. We're not even interested in any of this other SJW talk. And so, yeah. All right. So with that rant aside, which I also talked about the lore, and so. Breaking into the top 3 things you need to know about Mandalorian culture and this whole awesome, because obviously I went through a whole like rabbit hole of YouTube finding about everything I want to know about Mandalorian culture, which is kind of cool because Star Wars Rebels, who is run by Dave Filoni, who is a producer, writer for The Mandalorian, is behind the show. He did like the season 4 Star Wars Rebels delves heavily in Mandalorian lore and culture, which is kind of interesting just because in the cartoon show, they actually see the face, and then in the Mandalorian show, they make a point about not showing a face, you know, like have you taken off your helmet? Has anyone taken off your helmet without your permission type thing? I think it's a character, I think it was a story point for the TV show to do it, just because you can relate to the characters more, and for, I guess, maybe for even the kids, just so that you can differentiate better between the characters. So we'll see if we will actually see again like Pedro Pascal's face or the Mandalorian's face in this show. Again, if they do show the face, it's probably like the next season. But we'll see if that plays into like if they try to revert back into an older tradition of not taking off their helmet, because Star Wars Rebels they did. So we'll see. But yeah, definitely I want to talk about the top 3 things that you want to know about the Mandalorian culture. Behind me is Meta Nerds lore, and they did a good encompassing of the history of the Mandalorian, which I'll link below and you can check out and everything, of course. So at number 1 is their religion, which is war. So, and which is kind of cool because I love talking about like theology and all that stuff. So when it comes to, and it's also appropriate that this last episode was called Sin, right? And when you think about sin, you more or less think about Judeo-Christian theology. And it's interesting because if in Judeo-Christian theology, right, if the covenant and the relationship with God is essential to that religion, right, and deviating from that relation, from that covenant is sin, that's what defines Christianity, defines Judaism, right? For the Mandalorians, their religion of war is their covenant, right? Their covenant of bettering themselves through competition, through the survival of the fittest, which is really interesting. And for them, sin would probably be like peace, right? It would be essentially stagnation, like you're not progressing any forward. And I find that very interesting because I'm military and I can understand that bettering yourself and all that stuff, but essentially you are only as good as your last victory, right? And so for Mandalorians, war is essentially that their Darwinism, essentially, you are survival of the fittest type things, and that's how you progress within yourself, within competition, within just essentially bettering yourself. And so I find that really interesting and very fascinating within Mandalorian culture, just to become better, right? 2 is, in order for, if prayers are essential to Judeo-Christians, that's how you exercise your religion. Obviously, fighting is essential to Mandalorian culture, and in order to do that, you need armor and weapons that's essential to their religion, right? And so they make a point about that in the second episode, is my weapons is my religion type thing, which is a great line. But it is essential because, so it is kind of cool because what a lightsaber to a Jedi is armor to a Mandalorian, right? And then so Beskar is the name of the Mandalorian steel or Mandalorian iron. So you can think of that really quickly as kind of like in Game of Thrones, Valyrian steel is essential to the Targaryens, right? And so for Beskar, right, it is only found on Mandalore and their moon Concordia. So it is essential to their culture. It has properties that's essential to Mandalorian culture, right? And also, when it comes to Mandalorian armor, just as much as some cultures have used like tattoos to talk about like their family history and how telling your story, Mandalorian armor does the same as for themselves. Like it is kind of like passed down. You obviously have this idea of a signet or sigil or a call sign, when you're like taking down a beast, like you take on that persona. Like when you kill something, when you overcome something, you become that something, right? And I think that's really fascinating, So for like Jedis, again, they had to construct their own lightsaber. That's a first trial of Padawan. So for Mandalorians, they actually had to come up with a sigil and develop their armor, and take care of it and pass it on. And again, it's very Game of Thrones. Like just as much as Game of Thrones have all these houses and bannerments, you have the same thing in Mandalorian culture where you have clans, and clans are under a house and everything. So it's really great. And it'll be interesting to find out where, as the story progresses, where Mandalore proper is, because in Star Wars Rebels, they end up with Bo-Katan, another female strong character, that is head of the Mandalorians. And so
this is only the beginning. The Empire will send everything they have to crush Mandalore.
That is why you should lead us, my lady. Clan Vizsla is with you.
Clan Rook is with you.
Clan Elder is with you.
Clan Kreese is with you.
The Protectors are with you.
Clan Ren is with you.
For my clan, and for all of Mandalore.
Star Wars Rebels is like a decade before the events of the Mandalorian, so we'll see how that plays out. So, okay, and for the last portion, so I talked about war being part of the religion, having their armor, and 2, having their armor, weapons is part of the religion as well. So the last part is that they have a sense of honor, which is cool. Like, they are bounty hunters, they're assassins or whatever, but they still have the sense of honor that is essential to their people. So obviously it plays into the Mandalorian and saving Baby Yoda and everything. So I find that very fascinating. Just, again, they have a sense of honor, right? And that also plays into another portion of what Mandalorian culture is that they have a bias, a prejudice against droids, because obviously if you're trying to better yourself through competition and work, it is seen as a negative, a dishonor to have droids do the work for you, I guess. And so that's, you can see that already in the first 3 episodes of his distaste with droids. And if anything, it makes sense that, like, to have the biggest dishonor is to be killed by a droid. If you are fighting something with another soul, essentially, it makes perfect sense that it's dishonorable to be killed by an inanimate object. So that's definitely something, 3 things that I learned about Mandalorian culture that you guys should know. Like, again, war is the religion. To exercise that religion is through, like, their armors and weapons, and obviously they still have a sense of honor and code of conduct as a warrior race. So overall, these first 3 episodes was really great. Again, you got to see this character work hard, and and what's really great is that they portray this character. He's very capable of doing his things, but he still needs to have intervention to help him save throughout each episode. Like in the first episode, he had like the IG-88 droid, whatever, help him to get to Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda help him in the fight with the Mudhorn. And then in the last episode, you have all the other Mandalorians come and save him so he can escape. So again, as much as this character is like great, and you can kind of see other Mandalorians are bigger, probably have better weapons, but he's still capable. And so it's really good that we are seeing this capable character, but still need help, right? And it's just really great. So going into what the future of the show, obviously, I don't know. I can't even speculate what they're gonna do next. Going into the trailer, it looks like the remnants of the Empire are still gonna go after him, still after Baby Yoda. So obviously that's still gonna play a big part. But so far within these 3 episodes, really great. Again, like I said, it deals with 1, good storyline, and then 2, going into the lore, and then actually taking their time and developing an actually good TV show. So I enjoy it. I totally recommend this TV show to catch up. For those who are watching, obviously you're there with me. And so let's keep on having a conversation below. Tell me what you think about this TV show. What was surprising about it? What you find fascinating? What was the surprise factor? Like, I didn't expect this, whatever. So let's continue to talk. Obviously, everyone is talking about this online through YouTube about Baby Yoda and everything. So continue the discussion. I am part of doing this part of this community about talking. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe as I'm building my channel. So help me out. You can also follow me on my Instagram at HeyMitchMitch, and I also have a dedicated channel on YouTube when I just do TV movie reviews, and I have that as a HeyMitchMitch channel. And you can also follow me on my joint Instagram and YouTube at It's Mandatory Fun, where I do other videos with my friend Jen. And yeah, so thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Peace, peace, peace. Be with you always.